up and out, you know.
You guys, today on the Craving Consciousness podcast, we're going to talk about fairies, right? The nature spirits. And we have Laura Walthers with us who captures them in her photography. And we'll have her share a lot more. But I'm so excited that you agreed to jump on the podcast with me.
Oh, hello. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And what a apropos time. Spring just happened and birthed, and I actually saw the fairies that morning. I don't get a glimpse like that very often. It randomly comes to me, but I saw in my third eye like a movement, and I paused, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's spring equinox. And then all of a sudden I saw the fairies in their spring dresses just dancing around the trees with the elementals. And it was a wonderful way to start the day. It was a couple days ago.
I
So
love
yeah,
that. And so we were
yeah,
just talking about how we connected and you had reached out to me like 8 years ago saying,
uh,
hey, I want to be Facebook friends. And I do this thing with Enchanted something or rather. And so I was like, well, let's be friends. And I sent her, I don't know if you remember, a picture of my tree, Cheryl, that was in my
yeah.
my yard that I just absolutely loved when I lived in Michigan. So we kind of
Oh,
hit it off like, look at my
yeah.
tree, look at myself.
Well, yeah. That's really what this. I hope what we project today is being closer and connecting with nature. And there's a reason that tree loved you, because you had that energetic connection with it. And we are supposed to be the guardians of our land. We're supposed to love our land. We've forgotten this. And like the trees and the flowers, and don't put pesticides on everything, and be really one with nature that way. And I had a tree in a house that I lived at that I actually saw his face. I got him on film, or digital, I guess, but I'd have gotten a lot on film too. That's how kind of ages me. But his name was Sal, and he and I did grid work in that area, and he protected me. Like one time I was just really, really down and out, and I sat next to him. And I said, could you please just help me? I'm really needing to center right now. And so he took me on a journey, and I felt my guide was with me, and we went to this beautiful fairyland where there was this rainbow waterfall, and he just did this total. He was part of the process. I feel my guides and I, we worked, and the fairies worked together. But it's amazing, the thing that I really want to stress to the audience is they are real, and even though you may not see them, they are there. And it's just, for me, it didn't start out that way. I had a long journey of to this moment where I went through steps. We all do that. Like babies take their first steps, and then they talk, and then but I really feel we all remember things too when we get to a certain level of self. So I'll let you
Yeah.
go on
Well,
and ask
that
questions.
that was going to be one of my questions is what was your very first experience where you were like, this is real, it's not made up?
Well, I think they were trying to get my attention for a while. And then I just was too busy in my head. I kind of would disregard things. But the real one that I really feel was like the big brouhaha awakening was when I went to the forest in Olympic Forest, National Forest in Washington State with my daughter and my husband, not even knowing that was going to happen. Um, but the night before, the next day we went there, I was in the forest, and it was right next to a cabin we were staying at. And I said, I'm going to go out and just take a little stroll. Didn't know where I was going, but I came up to this beautiful area behind the cabin, and it was close to the forest we were going in the next day. And I saw this big redwood tree, and I said, there's guardian trees in the forest, and it's really wonderful if you can recognize them and just say, is it okay if I walk in your forest? Because it is their forest. And I got yes. And so I walked not too far, and there was this kind of bushy area where it had all these kind of bushy plants enveloped, kind of like an umbrella. I was very drawn to go in there. I'm getting chills telling the story. Anyway, so I'm standing there, and I can feel like a whole, I had feeling when you're blindfolded, people are, if there was a bunch of people standing around, you could still feel them, even though you didn't know you couldn't see them. It's exactly how I felt. I couldn't see them, but I could feel something. And then I started hearing a song, and then I knew. And that's how they get a hold of you telepathically, usually by song, by sound, by smell, by some sense.
Yeah.
And it could even be a knowingness. Some people have clairvoyance very strong, and I don't have that. I do have it in different ways than, it's more random, and it's when it's for a purpose for me.
Yeah.
But they told me that they wanted me to be a vehicle in the physical for them to show the world that they existed. And I went, whoa. And I could feel their sadness because of all the things that we're not appreciating anymore, because it's their homes we're destroying, and a lot of things, particularly the soil right now. So I heard that and I went, well, wait a minute. I'm like, well, you're going to have to show me that this is real. I had no idea what to feel about it. It was kind of caught me off guard kind of thing. So the next day, me and my daughter, my husband went on a hike in the Hoh Forest, in the Olympic National Forest. And and as we drove in, we felt this total like vibe, my husband and I, just this total shift in frequency.
Yeah.
And little did we know we were in a total different space in that time. And so we got to this one particular tree, and all of a sudden it was like this golden light was all around us. And it was like all of a sudden we were just in bliss. And I looked at my husband, and I said, do you feel this? He goes, uh-huh. He was just like totally out of it. And I thought, oh, I gotta take a photo, because I went there to take some photos. And lo and behold, that's what my whole first book was about. It's called Life in Nature Revealed, real photographs of fairies, gnomes, and elves. And it tells that story in depth. And you can go to my website and look more there to find out more. But it literally, that photograph that I took in that moment was the fairies had revealed the fairy realm. And there's a lot of beings in that photograph. And that was my introduction to wake up. And it was my beautiful intro into allowing, it's kind of like my spiritual tool to say, look, this is real. And so they gave that, and they gifted that to me to show the humanity. And I knew from then on that as time went on, just the gifts I was given, the sacredness they were showing me in nature that wasn't of this realm, physical realm, and that this was my mission, and I had to be a vision teller, I call myself, I suppose. But
Right.
yeah, it was quite amazing.
So that's so interesting, because that's when my awakening happened too. It really did start with the fairy realm.
Oh, lovely.
I moved across the country to Michigan. And so I want to say, towards the end, I really, truly, truly believe, and this maybe will sound crazy, but probably not to you, right? Is I
No.
believe that tree found me and made me move there. It was really weird. I know, I just have a feeling that tree was like, this is where you're going to live. And somehow it aligned. It had a part in me moving into that house.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went on a walk in the woods. And just like you said to your husband, do you feel that? That was the first time. And I was like, it was like the air stopped existing.
Yeah.
It was all of a sudden like nothing was moving, like the air wasn't moving anymore or something. Not like wind, just like it was gone. Like you were in this room with no air, but it wasn't scary. It was like we just stepped into something. I'm like, do you feel that? And I could just feel all of these things. I couldn't see them looking down at us. And I'm like, there's a bunch of them. They're everywhere. And he's thinking I'm nuts. And so I go, as soon as I go home,
wow.
I reach out to my daughter and I'm like, I swear, I think there was fairies in the woods. And she says, yeah, Mom. She believed in fairies. I always thought they were make believe. So, but that's what piqued my interest to go further.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, like you said, steps, right? And I would just start seeing, like, because more clairvoyant. I would see there, what's so weird? Like I could look at a strawberry plant, and if I let it just look at it for a little while, then I start seeing these little people, and they have like little dresses on, and they look just like the strawberry leaves. Like it's like they're part of the they're part of the plant.
Yeah, they help the flower. Well, they're the devas of the plant, and also the fairies that work with that. Nature sprites do that as well. But yes, it's amazing. Wow, I didn't know you had such a similar experience.
Yeah, that's what really piqued me. And then, like you said, I would take pictures of my tree all the time, and there would be all kinds of things in the crevices, little faces, little people.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I know. I feel very, very blessed to be able to get it on camera, photographs, and the trees. Like, I want to also add to your thing. Like, I had that one same tree that I befriended in my yard. It was just in my yard, like you say. One day I was meditating with it, and I decided that I wanted to connect more and make it like a sacred space. So I put some gnomes, like some statues, and planted some flowers. And and then one morning I was just meditating, and I looked down at my feet, and there were two blue sodalite stones at my feet, and those weren't there before. Particularly blue stones you don't see out in nature much. And interestingly, I thought, wow. And then I looked up that I was getting together a spiritual group at the time, and sodalite was like a unity consciousness type stone that helped with that. And I was just they have brought gifts to me. Have you had that experience as well?
Well, when you asked that, like immediately there was a marble,
There you go. Yep. They give
and
marbles.
I was like, this it be from like the 40s or something, like an old glass marble,
Mhm.
and I think I still have it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they do marbles. Marbles is a big, big one they do.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, because they do things that are childlike. So think of, since we're on that subject, one time I was with a friend in a forest. It was in Oregon here. And all of a sudden I smelled bubble gum. And I was like, I looked at her, I'm like, she's not chewing gum. And then I thought, okay, like I said, they come in different senses. So I knew they were trying to contact me. So I was like, okay, you're here. What is it you want me to do? And they said, go over there. They kind of drew me over to an area. In other words, in my mind, they send me pictures. And so
Mm-hmm.
I went to that area, and I looked straight into this, like, it was like a hill that was it went up. And all of a sudden, the whole area turned into this like fractal, kind of energetic fractal. And I could feel connected to everything. And I was like, whoa. And they were just, it was, I don't know how long it was, in time. When you're out of time, how do you know what time it is? And it is an illusion as well. But it was probably maybe a minute, but it only takes that long to really have an awakening. And so that was one of them, one of the initiations. I've had many. And I feel like you said, with the steps, like a lot of it is we have to allow ourselves to trust enough to hold that frequency, because it's all about unconditional love, non-judgment, deep trust, allowing, not needing to know everything, just being. There's a lot involved with this, to be the vehicle for the higher frequencies that are coming in all the time now. We're just like, we're bombarded. So yeah, they really help. But one thing I do know is they really want to partner with us a lot deeper. And this is important for people to know. And there's ways that we can help that. And it's really simple, you know, um, to be more kind to each other, to be more kind and not judge ourselves, because then that projects, light to the world in a more loving way. And I tend to like to do little things for them. So I will, like yesterday, a couple of days ago, I bought some pond lilies. I don't know if you know what those are, but
Mm-mm.
they're beautiful. I feel like they're fairy flowers. And I could literally feel the plants as I was taking them in my car. They were so excited that I bought them. And I didn't used to have that relationship. It took me a while to literally let go of all the programming inside of me from other lifetimes, from this lifetime, from ancient religions, from all kinds of stuff, right? And the way you know that this is your revelation is because you start to sense things and you know them without even, you just know. And so I love being in that place now. I love being there.
I like that you say that, because I feel like, especially with the fairy realm, you just know, and you just trust that you know that, because there's no other person out here pointing out, hey, Bernadine, here's this fairy, and this is what it does. You discover that on your own, and you know it to be true in your heart. And so then you share it with somebody else. You didn't read it, you didn't learn it from a book. You didn't learn it through this lifetime. You learned it through being in the nature, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, the encounters. I find that that's my favorite books to read is people's encounters because they've opened up to a higher part of their potential to even have that experience.
What book are
And
you referencing?
well, not really any. Do have some books that I love to. There's one that I really like. It's by Jeffrey. Let me hold on. I got it right here. I think Hodson, and it's the name of it. Anyway, it's a great book. He talks about how the fairies literally make nature through sound, light, and vibration. And I have actually seen them do that in my third eye. They've shown me how they overlight an area with a certain energy before winter so that the plants, don't die and whatever. And then that same tree where I planted those flowers, that next day I had in my third eye, I saw all these things running around. They were little brownies. I mean, like little gnome brownies.
Yeah.
And they were activating the seeds that I just planted in the ground. I was like, wow. And then I asked him, show me a sign that they're real. I know at first you kind of doubt. And then the next morning I will go out and there's this Christmas cactus that was blooming in April. And I thought, okay, I got it. So I don't do that anymore. I mean, I feel like it's always fun to get
Validation.
Validation, but it's okay to ask for that, to ask them to demonstrate to you that they are with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's not about demands or control of expectations, because for a long time I wanted to connect with the flower Davis so bad because I love flowers. And I thought, just let go, Laura, it'll happen if it's meant to happen. And then, oh my gosh, one day I was looking at a photograph I took on the computer, and this Deva came in the corner of it. This is like real time on my computer screen. And I connected with it, and it was so strong, so deep love. I had tears just streaming down my cheeks. And then the soul of that flower just lit up and just opened up and glowed right in front of me. And so those are those experiences that change you forever. I'm telling you, they're divine.
Yeah, because you had mentioned that the fairies will come into a photo and there may not always be there.
That's right.
They could come in and leave. And that's fascinating to me.
Well, partly too, because the photographs that I take and I work with, this is one of the things they wanted me to share with the world too, was we are multidimensional. And so the photographs that I take are as well. They're like portals. So they do change. And so one day I had taken the picture of the enchanted tree, the one that, I had the awakening with. And all of a sudden I noticed about a year later, or maybe it was 6 months, I can't remember, it had changed. Like this one split was in the moss now, and there was other things in there. And I went, what? And then I took a picture of one time of a Mount Shasta, a water in Mount Shasta, and this beautiful angelic water being showed up in the water. It's like, I call him an angelic water wizard. And he, as he was appearing in the photograph, I could feel the energy coming through me. I mean, it was almost like sometimes they bring the potential in through my field, the guides help, but sometimes they just do it within itself. It's just the photo. Photos have way more than what we know they have in them. We're such a hologram here that it depends on what they can be activated. And that particular one, they literally showed the water. The water started disappearing, and they were showing me what was underneath the water in the photograph, and it stayed. And I did not take a picture of what was underneath the water. So when I knew that was happening, like, okay, things are a little different than I thought. So it became a part of me, and I just feel like, okay, nothing surprised me after that. So it's really, it's a fun, we all have this wonderment that we can activate, right? And that wonderment led you to that tree, but that wonderment also gifted you that tree. And and partnered with you to help you ground your energy that you were dealing with there, that particular place. And so, I feel we just need to allow that to come into being again,
Yeah.
And
The wonderment is that word is so perfect, because when I moved to Michigan, right? Because I was in Las Vegas. I mean, I love the mountains and this and that, but it wasn't until I went to Michigan where I had this huge nature awakening, right?
Yeah.
And literally, they basically told me, I had this revelation that this is what life is supposed to be like, not all of the other stuff, like not money or going to get a job or like just sitting there and staring at the grass, laying in the grass and watching the ladybugs crawl through, or little spiders. It was like that wonderment feeling came and filled me up so much that nothing outside of me could ever do that,
Right.
Nothing as a human would ever make me feel that way. And I told my husband, and I said, this is what life is. Like, I discovered life.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And so I feel like that's what the fairies, they definitely want us to share that, because we've gotten so lost. Like, even today I was on a walk and my guides are like, there's so much like convoluted is what they said. There's so much convoluted information that you got to just forget anything you ever knew because none of it's true,
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, and we have even more right now, because there's a power struggle going on, and I think that is something I just want to kind of side mention here, because I feel it's important. When we send light to, like, say right now, the earth, so it becomes more balanced, it's so important to not have an agenda when we do that, because the power wants you to, when you say pray for this or pray for that, it becomes an agenda. What if there's something going on that we don't even know it needs to go on, for something amazing to happen? Like, maybe a new choice will be made because we allowed it to just fade out and play out, right? So that's really an important thing right now, is to send light always. I mean, radiate your beautiful light to the earth with no agenda. And then the power can just disintegrate. And that's what I think in the moment, that's really important.
I feel like what you hit it spot on, because it's really your intention. Like, it has to be your intention. So if you're jumping on someone else's intention wagon, you're sending energy to that, and you might not know what it is, right?
That's right. Yeah. And you might not interfere with something. That was something I learned a lot about with, learning how to do things. Like, I know, I'm sure all people that do energy work with the land and different water and all the different elements understand that somewhere along the way, as you progressed into your evolvement, you had to really let go of how to control that. You didn't, controlling it actually took away from it. And that's, at least I should say, that's my experience and where I'm at now with nature. I mean, I probably find more wonderment by not thinking about it than I do thinking about it. So that's because that's kind of the ego mind, right? We're in the heart space now more, and our senses are leading us, not our mind. So that's what bridges that into a new revelation of self. I feel is just allowing and not let the ego drive it anymore. Let the passion and the senses. Yes.
Isn't that a challenge for us humans?
Oh yeah. We got these little devices in our hands all the time, and we've got, it's like, wow.
And your logical mind is just running away with how many thousands of thoughts per day, So
yeah. But what's for the highest good? I always do. What's for the highest good? Even for me, when I make a decision, it may not be what I want to hear, but if it's for my highest good, I know it's true for me.
Right.
And so I ask that for everything. It's even food. I'll ask my body all day long, okay, what do you want now? What's good? What's good for right now? And it could be, anything. So it's, we have not lived in that energetic space and allowed that energy to serve us. And it's right here, everywhere, It's like, we are the wizards. We are the magic. It's right here. Let it to serve. So it's kind of like, we have to be able to step out and be comfortable with just being free of that. And I think that's where a lot of us have, tipped our toes. A lot of people tip their toes in the water, but they have to know things to allow things. But they'll be challenged with that because we're in an energy now where it's the old programming is going to be in your face until you allow it to give you, with grace, just let it go, and so, yeah, that is challenging with all the other stuff going on, but nature's around us every day.
That's what I was going to say. You got to get to nature. And for me, I miss it so bad because I'm in Vegas, but
yeah,
I went for a walk today and I do like my condo. We have grass and like trees and stuff, but, I was just like, I feel so much different just going for a 15-minute walk, even if it's on the black asphalt next to a little tree,
yeah.
But yeah, you guys got to get outside and just be
Yes, yes,
in
yeah.
the wonderment because you'll see magical stuff, I think anyway, or
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
feel it if you allow yourself to just be quiet, sit down and be quiet.
Pause, yes. And in the stillness, the presence, like you were saying earlier when you had your experience with the tree and then all of a sudden the air stopped, it was like, yeah, that's what real nature is. It has a presence and it carries energies harmonically, even new earth energies. It's like, we don't realize the rock beings are amazing. Like one time I was doing I'm also a graphic artist and I was doing years ago a book for a friend and she had this photo of a rock being and I was working on it. And then all of a sudden I heard this loud noise it was so loud. I lived out in the country at the time. I thought somebody had, shot a gun off or something had fell that was really heavy, could have been machinery. And I thought, wow, I wonder what that was. So I went outside and I looked and I came back and sat down. I thought, well, okay, everything seems okay. So then I started typing it and then boom again. And I realized it was the rock being. He was wanting to get my attention. And I mean, I have had amazing photographs of them. And, they are so powerful and sacred. They hold the Christ consciousness here. They do a lot of things. So just even a rock, like you're saying, the trees, there's all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was going to ask. What do the rocks say? Because sometimes I feel like some things have a general message. Like for me, like the mountains around Las Vegas, they're holding the wisdom, they're holding sacred space, they're our protection, they're protectors. Whereas I guess other things maybe has its own little personality,
Yeah, and I think it's like us, all different trees have different personalities, I've found.
They
There's
sure do, yeah.
the fairies and the rock beings about the personalities, I'm sure they do too. I've actually I've sat on one once and my Kundalini just went crazy. I mean, they can send energy too. I think they have different purposes, but you're right. I think they ground in our reality here. They help ground it in. They help hold it here. And so they're kind of important that way. The trees do too. And I do believe the trees in the 100 years ago or more, they were holding the higher frequencies for us. We weren't there. We had dropped back with all the different programs that we were playing at the time, and so the density was a lot more. And they saved us. They helped because actually, when I was in that same forest, I had planted a crystal. I was guided to do this, unknowns to me why. I didn't know until later that it actually allowed the trees to know. It wasn't something I did, but I sent out a signal to them that they were now able to release the star codes because the star codes were what held the higher frequencies that we were holding them now, and we were activating them. So it was kind of like that boots on the ground, they say, to alert the trees that, yeah, now you can do it. And I was told that, and I was like, wow, okay. And one of the trees I met in a forest told me he was not a tree spirit. He was a wizard from the star systems, and he came in and he was here to hold just different energies, and he worked through the trees. So trees are, I've even seen little tiny ships go in them. The ships can shrink, just like the fairies. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. I thought I'd just throw that one in there. I've seen it all really, but not all, but I've seen a lot of things that of not surprising me anymore. Like, we are everything, right? So why wouldn't it all happen? That's just how I look at that.
Yeah. I mean, just like if you think about what goes on in the bottom of the ocean, versus stuff in the desert, like that's stuff that I look at. I'm like, look, that cactus looks just like something that would be under the water too. So as above, so below, right? And
Yeah,
as within, so without. So it goes deep. And
it
that's the
does.
part where they're saying today when I'm on my walk about the convoluted, right?
Yes.
Because we're having this conversation. I'm like in on this combo, right? Where somebody else might be like, they're freaking nuts. They're
But
freaking nuts.
it's only because they only would say that because they're not ready for it, or
Right. Right.
they haven't allowed themselves to yet. There's no judgment with that, but I don't judge them at all. I
Right.
don't ever worry about that because my seeds are planting the new earth, and what I feel and what I share is about love, and it's about light and peace or whatever. And that is what I'm here to do. And I have been overly thanked. Like one time, this just came in. Okay, they want me to tell you. Oh boy. Okay, so one time I was working on a book, and I was a certain tree, and I was typing literally. Okay, well, this is a tree that you could go. Some trees are portals, and some go into inner earth, right? And that's just what happened in this moment. So I'm typing, and all of a sudden they go, okay, let's go, and I'm like, what? And they go, no, we're going to go right now. They want to take me in inner earth while I was typing. And I go, oh. So I told my husband, I go, do you have any chocolate? Because I thought I better get something to ground me really fast. So I literally went down like the rabbit hole in that tree, and I was like Alice in Wonderland, truly. And I went through these crystal caves, and I came into this really huge area, and there was this big tree. It was like an avatar, but about 10 times bigger. It was huge. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? And all of a sudden I look over to the distance, and there's these like 30 gnomes standing like in alignment. And one of them's got his hands behind his back, and he's got a look on his face like, I know something, but I'm not telling you yet. And I'm like, okay. And then he kind of came forward, and I was like, what are you here for? What are you guys doing? And he said, well, we're here to gift you something. And I said, you are? And he said, yes. And so he lifted out from he had a crown, a etheric crown. It had all these jewels on it. And he gave it to me, and he put it on my head. And I went, and I was just like, I was in tears. My tears were going down my cheeks. And he said, this is for the service that you've been.
I lost you for a minute there.
Oh, I better go back. So I
Okay.
came back up through the hole, and
We lost you. You
oh
froze.
no.
Yeah. So you were saying about how he put the crown on your head, and
Oh,
this is
okay.
for
Are we
you.
okay? Are we okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, and he put the crown on my head, and then he said, it's the service that you've been giving us. And it was so touching. All these tears came into my, and I was like, wow. So then I thought, well, okay, a few things happened. I don't know what all we did, but then they were saying you need to go back up. So I did, and I'm sitting in my office, right? And I'm like, wow. And my husband, I said, come here. Paul's his name, and I said, hold my hand. I want you to feel this. And he could feel it. He was like, whoa. And he goes, what, are you okay? I heard you crying in there. He heard me crying when I was down, in the earth. And so then I said, well, I got to go on a walk. Usually I have to ground that in. And I asked him, could you show me a sign that's something? And then I walked and came back, and there was nothing. And I was like, oh, okay. And then as I stepped into the driveway, near my foot was this little tiny plastic crown. It was a child's toy.
Stop
It was
it.
it was sitting there, and it was like, oh my gosh. And so they have done things since then. That's what they will do. Like if they know you, like they form a language with you, just
Mhm.
like any friend. Like, sometimes friends, you have a memory you share, and then later you kind of like, that's like a thing with you. Well, that's how they are. And so like I've had crowns come since then, and all kinds of things. And so they'll repeat it. So that that's them telling you, right? And one time there was these gloves that I kept finding, and I said, "What's with the gloves?" And he says, "Well, it was we're helping hands for you. I know that you need some extra financial right now." And then something came in the mail. I can't remember. It was a check from something I know, one of those weird things like you just didn't expect. So it's just amazing. They do, yeah, they get a bad rap sometimes, right? They're bratty and they don't, they're not good. And no, when I became one with the mission that I'm doing now with them, I spoke and I said, in my contract with them, only benevolent, and it's got to be fun. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. I had a client that came to me, and I was just talking about this, where the gnomes helped her with a financial gift. They gifted her a necklace. She woke up feeling hands on her neck after she had already been working with these two little gnome dudes on her altar. And she was dreaming that they had their hands on her neck. So she kind of freaked out, but then turned out, like, in her dream, they gave her this necklace and said, this is going to help you with your money problems. And then she eventually found a necklace that looked like that necklace in real life. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, I love talking about stuff like this, because then it like reminds me, I'm like, oh yeah, I have had people say they had physical objects show up.
Yeah, and some people get upset about it. Like, oh, they lost, they took my this and that, and I go, no, they're not. They're not trying to upset you. They're trying to show you they're helping you. They're around. They're in your house. They're in your field sometimes. I mean, they've worked from just placing things here and there to, like, they'll work with my computer even. Like one time I was working on a page in a book about tree fawns, and I had only knew the only thing I knew about it was, of course, the Midsummer's Night Eve, right? The Midsummer's Eve with Shakespeare. And I was like, and they stopped me. They just put this whole big black box in the middle of the page. Boom. And I went, what? So I thought, okay, that's where I had to learn to let go and allow them to bring to me what it is I needed.
Yeah.
Well, a couple weeks later, I was kind of hoping they would. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
The fairies are messing with our
You have to
podcast.
do 2 recordings. Oh no. They are. That's just their way of saying they're here. See, they're saying, yes, we do mess with the computers. Okay, you guys, I said you behave, right? So anyway, it was quite, now I'm off track to what I was talking. Oh yeah, the tree fawns. So tree fawns were different than what I would have written. They actually have like a etheric umbilical cord that goes to the tree, and they stay with them with the whole life of the tree, and they help the energy come in that's coming in from the stars or wherever, the universe, and they help ground it into the tree for the tree. And so there's just beautiful symbiotic things that are all over the place in nature. I know if anybody's into nature, they know that. But to just study that on a kind of a fairy level is just amazing and magical to me. So I love to share those things.
Yeah. The thing I love about it too is, like, and I talk about this with spirit realm, right? Is once you've tapped it, once you know how they communicate with you, once you've tapped in, once you've got that validation, then you have the, I don't know if it's confidence or the trust rather. Then you have trust in what it is that they're telling you that makes no sense, because you know that it's your next lesson. Whereas, so it's like you're literally in invisible school. Like you're literally learning and building on top of these building blocks.
I love that term, invisible school.
Mhm.
Wow, I've never used that. I may use that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. One time I was working on a book, and oh my gosh, I had worked so hard. I was just shooting and doing things, and I was exhausted really. And all of a sudden, the last photo that I took outside, I came in, I finished up, put my equipment away, but I realized that my cable release on my camera was missing, and I thought, I just used it. Where is it? They took it. I was so shocked. And me being a photographer, that got me. I was like, what? And I thought, okay, I got to take a break. So 2 weeks later, I was out by my apple tree. I was guided to go out there. They said, go out there and just hang out or whatever. And there it was on the ground. Amazing stuff, right? I mean, it's, yeah. And I think we do stuff too, that we don't realize we're doing. Like, one time I had a whole outfit in my closet that just disappeared. And a friend of mine who's very clairvoyant told me, well, you took it from another dimension. I'm like, what? That's my favorite outfit. Why would I do that? I don't know, but your other self somewhere else needed it. So when that happened, it was kind of that other level of it, right? Like it's not just fairy. It's like we're multidimensional. We're on other doing other things, other
Yeah.
places. So okay, that makes sense, I guess. You know, I haven't had it back since, but I guess I feel I don't need to. But so
Yeah.
much of it, we're writing the stories more than we realize. Yeah.
Right. When you said that, I was like, I lost a jacket. Well, I didn't lose it. They took it. Somebody took it.
And it might have been you taking it to something on another level, you know.
There was no way. Like me and my husband went round and round and round about this jacket. I'm like, there is no way it could have just disappeared. Like it's just disappeared.
Wow.
So maybe like multidimensional Brandoline was like,
Yes. Yes,
I need it over here. You
exactly.
don't need it.
Yeah, you know, it's always not in negative terms. I've not ever had, you know, anything like that. So
Yeah,
I
same.
don't draw that energy, and I don't put out that energy. And one time I did take a photograph of a tree that I was going to put in a book, and they told me that it was the planet wasn't ready for that to be done yet because the energy in the tree was higher frequency than what the book, you know, the planet was. And I'm like, oh. And so they literally came in my sleep that night and told me again to make me understand that this is real, that you don't. And then what's interesting, later I could use it. So it's all good now. But the thing about trust though, like you just said, here's how I feel now. I know that I trust them enough that if it's something I should not do, they tell me. You know, they say, well, no, I'll feel it. And that's why being open is so important. Just being open and non-judgmental and working from your heart. That's when you get the clear messages. You know, not all the time. I'm sure, you know, we have that human element that we're like, okay, I need to ask again maybe or something. But it's 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 my I'm not going to say my safety thing because safety is kind of a 3D thing. I think it's more my knowingness can come in more and allow me to feel good about whatever happens. It's happening for me, not to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, there really is no negative.
Yeah.
It it's all happening for you, right?
Yeah, it is.
So you write a lot of books then?
Well, I have one published. I'm currently actually working on an oracle card deck, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be amazing. I have 55 cards, and a lot of them are real photographs of the nature beings.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it doesn't really go with the book. I mean, it has a little workbook, but I don't have a publisher yet. But I'm almost done with it. And I did have another book that I'm ready to publish too. The fairies wanted me to bring in their energy into the home, not just like your gardens or whatever. I want to partner, you know, with you and in the making of that book. And that one is complete. I don't have I think I'm going to do it as a package thing, but they showed up in the photographs a few times inside my house when I was doing it for the book. So, you know, things like that just always affirm that they're ready to be seen. You know, of course, they had to hide from us because of our egos and other things. And so, yeah, I think through what we talk about and our just us talking just shows them how ready we all are and how, you know, they're playful and they want to be with us. They really do, you know. And I know they're in inner earth too. They live there. They're around everywhere there, but it's a higher frequency there. So we're almost there, and we just have to allow it to be and love ourselves because, see, you know, everything comes from within. So the more we allow ourselves and know our own potential, then we meet them, no problem.
Yeah. And I think too, it's going back to that being instead of doing.
Yes.
So like loving yourself enough to just not do anything, just be in the nature. To me,
Yeah.
that was profound. I would never be who I am today
If you,
had I not had that experience in the woods, or had I not just fell in love with the tree, Cheryl. my friend Cheryl, um,
Yeah.
and sitting with her, and just I really believe that was truly probably the first time I was ever really grounded, that
Yeah.
deeply. And so that's like you said, when you're so grounded, and that's when there's space for spirit to come in, to come
Yeah.
through.
Well, and your body is your temple here. It helps you, it kind of translates everything, right? So even though your heart is part of that and the etheric part of it too, but it's very important to uh, want to connect, but not in a way of, um, look what I got, this is,
Right.
I'm somebody because I have this. That's something that I really, if I want to stress, is the worst thing you can do is compare yourself to anybody else. Because I had no idea years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. But I always knew that I would be in photography and I would love nature and I love photographs. And so my whole history is with all kinds of different photographs. But I loved, my favorite book as a child was Thumbelina, it's a flower fairy. So, we don't realize those things bridge in different sections when we're ready, and I even see it in my grandchildren, like, oh, what I could tell them, but they wouldn't know, like they do know a lot more than I did at that age, for sure. And I think they're both very gifted. I think all children are now coming in. But it's the best thing I can do is not tell them, but show them.
Yeah.
Then they interpret it in their way, and then they know by them telling themselves what they've seen or felt.
Yes.
And that is part of what um, my mission is too, is to help children do that as well. So
I
yeah,
love that, because if they could stay connected now, then they wouldn't have to revert back, later on,
yeah,
to
we kind
find
of
that
dump
space.
stuff on them. Schools, have got to change. It doesn't resonate to,
Oh, for sure. All of
but
that stuff.
they all are start changing.
Yeah.
I
All
think
of
they're
that stuff.
changing.
It's coming. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's exciting time to be aware of your human experience.
and humor is real important too. I will
Oh,
say, um, the gnomes. One time, I wanted to buy one of those big, those big gnome books by the German guy. I can't pronounce his name, but they're big books. They're thick. There's several made, and it's called the Gnome Book. And I asked him, I said, okay, show me, I want to find one of those, maybe at a thrift store or at a, used book, because they were like $60 or $50 and they're new. And so one day I went in this really, really off the wall place and I asked him, tiny place, I said, do you have a book of, about fairies? And I go, I think we do. So I went around, saw this lady in this little tiny nook place, and I came to this shelf and she pulled down this book and it was the gnome book. And I was so excited, right? I open it up and it's in Portuguese. I was like, okay, funny, funny. So, you know, that was kind of silly, and of course, I didn't buy it, right? But I did get it later, and but they do. They want to introduce themselves in a fun-loving way. Sometimes on my phone, I've even heard them blow horns in my ears or chimes. I've heard accordions. So they do. They can telepathically get your attention, like the rock beam just thud. I heard this, major thud.
mhm.
It's not always through sound though. It could be through feeling.
Yeah.
That like hee giddishness. That's
Hmm.
the real sign you're with them. That because we are a part of them, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Oh, I was going to say something about that. It's because I'm clairvoyant, right?
yes.
So when I see people, I see what type of other DNA they have in there.
Oh, I'd love
So
to know
they'll,
mine.
yeah, because, well, you got the fairy thing going on with the shape of your face, your cute haircut, you got the
Hmm.
fairy thing going on. But I'll see like mermaid people or
Hmm.
gnome people. There's no gnome people out there for sure. They usually work with wood,
Oh
definitely with their
yeah.
hands. Uh, yeah, I see
Yes.
frog people.
Yes.
Um, and when I tap into that essence, then it's part of their purpose to live out a little bit of that frog or live out a little bit of that mermaid. It's super interesting.
It is super interesting. There's a woman. Her name is Tanis Helliwell, and she wrote several books. Summer of Leprechauns, the excellent book. I mean, if you want to get into leprechaun energy, she also wrote Hybrids. Oh, so you think you're just human, I think is the title. And that
Ooh.
one talks about, like, she learned through her, she's a healer and she's also a therapist. So she learned through her sessions with people that they would go back into parts of lives where they were elemental or
Mm-hmm.
fairy or whatever. And so she learned that we all, a lot of us came in with that hybrid. And I've had visions of being fairy and also being gnome, being elven, being a brownie. It's kind of like, yeah, why that would definitely would help me to be who I'm doing this right now, right? I mean, I even had to go into the lower frequencies, densities when I first started working with them to have what do you call it, a variety of different, a range of different frequencies, so that when I talk to people, my energetic field would not threaten them. So like, I had to go back, I was out of corporate, then I had to go back into corporate, and it was so hard for me to do. This was years ago. And I was like crying about it. I said, why? And they said, because you need to have certain density frequencies, because you're going to be speaking to people and they're going to be of that, that energetic. So you need to carry that field of different, different levels. And I was like, oh, okay. So I knew that was the reason, right? So, and I think it did help me, because I don't think I ever had a problem ever with any audiences that I've talked to. And they might have fallen asleep, but that's only because of the energy. It wasn't because of what I was talking about.
Right.
And they would be yawning and then fall asleep, and we all know that's them getting the energy. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, it's sometimes you don't know those little side bit, paths you take are going to be like, you just get all crazy that it's not, you don't feel it's right, but it is, because there's a reason, and maybe not on a level you're even aware of.
Right. Just like you said about the Thumbelina book. That could have been you. It was a seed planted so that, you
Right.
know, later on it was blossoming. I love it. I love it. So tell the audience, where can they find you? Where's your website? Where can they follow
Okay.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Facebook. Also, under my name, you can look me up. You can find me, and I do post a lot there. And then I have a website. It's called www.beingenchanted.com. So the word being, BEINGENCHANTED.com. And there's a blog on there, a fairies blog that is excellent. There's all kinds of amazing stories and pictures. I haven't updated it too much, but lately, because we've been kind of doing the whole, I'm not even saying the word anymore. We've been kind of isolated. I don't want to bring that into the reality anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are birthing now more new things. So I'm sure everybody will, be able to do that again, and I will too. But
That's
right now,
awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for what you do and your purpose and grounding it into this planet and, planting the seeds with other people, because truly, truly, that's where it is. It's nature. It's what we have to get back with big
yes,
time.
and
So,
I'm never alone, and neither are any of us. And we always have guides with us. We always have helpers. And if it's something with the heart and spreading light, we'll always be guided to what we need to have with that. So there's a lot of deeper trust that people have to let go of. Even maybe something that didn't work in the past can work now. Let the energy serve you, just allow it. And somebody, well, the other day I wrote this, and I want to say it right now, just kind of as an ending statement from, I wrote it down this morning. When you feel less the need to know, but more of allowing yourself to be, you have let go of the ego mind and open to more of your potential beyond the physical. You become more soul conscious within a multidimensional reality. That is why it's so important to do what you love, be what you love, and create what we love. That is the new earth.
yes. Ooh, goosebumps. Yeah. And
But you
trust
were,
that. Yeah. I love that. That's freaking beautiful.
yeah. So that's kind of what and happy trails, I usually say. Happy trails, my friends, because go out and be in nature, but be conscious in nature, Don't just, get your run in for the day,
Right.
Go in and smell that beautiful moss on the trees, or the the flowers blooming, or the soil, or the air, this sweet going across your face. I mean, open your senses, become what you're being in. And I'm telling you, it relaxes you. There's harmony there, and it will balance you. So
It's scientific too.
it is. It's proven.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love spirit science. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again.
Yeah. I so appreciate you, Brandon, having me on. It's always a pleasure to share my stories and my love of nature and just with the world, whatever, if I can give one person a little piece today and make them giggle or two, that'd be nice.
I love it.
So thank you.